name is Josh Pitts, and if you're watching this video, then you are in Miss Max class, and you are probably stressed about this informative speech project. Now trust me, I've been there before, and I know how you feel, so I'm going to walk you through the process of setting up your outline. So first things first, you're going to want to set up your topic, and you're going to want to pick something that you're passionate about, that you love a lot. And I picked comparative mythology because I just love learning about storytelling, and I feel connected to other people when I learn about it. And for the next thing, it is your purpose, and this is basically what your audience is going to get out of your speech, what they're going to come away with knowing. And the next thing is your introduction. This is kind of setting up what your speech is going to be about, just a broad overview of everything that you're going to talk about. And the first thing that you're going to do is get their attention. This could be anything from a quote that relates to your topic or a rhetorical question, anything like that. And the next thing is going to be your thesis statement, and you're going to want to watch out for making this different from your purpose. And this is going to be more along the lines of what your speech will be about as opposed to what your audience will get from it. So for my thesis, it is through modern and ancient stories, I will prove that all humans are more psychologically similar than you may think. So this kind of points out the broad overview of what I'm going to be talking about. And the next thing is your sources. And this doesn't have to be MLA formatted, it just has to be a basic list of the sources that you gathered. So just don't worry about it, just maybe put them in the order that you talk about them in your speech, but it's basically just a list to give credit to people that you got information from. And your need statement is really, you're just making sure that your audience is interested in what you're talking about. You're going to want to give them a reason to listen to you. So for this speech, your audience is college students, so you're going to want to relate that to other college students. However, you might be able to do that with your speech. And then you're just going to want to preview your main points. For this speech, you have 3 main points. So you're going to have an introduction point, a middle point, and an ending point. And you might want to find like a through line that you can relate all these through. For me, it was chronology. So my first point was kind of back in ancient times, and then my last point was in modern times. So you're going to want to find something to kind of relate all of them together. And then is your transition statement, and you're going to want to make this relate to your introduction, and then make it relate to what you're going to talk about in the next section. And then you're going to start your body of your speech. Okay, so for your body, you're going to start with your first of your main points. And so this could be the earliest thing in the chronology, this could be anything like that, just get a good starting point. And for my starting point, I started out with a quote that I did with the chairman of mythology at Harvard University. And if you're using a quote or anything from a source that you got, you want to make sure that you cite it within the outline itself, so that you're giving credit constantly to other people's work. And the great thing about doing interviews or surveys or anything like that is that you can kind of tailor the information to what you need in your outline, because you can tailor the questions to get answers that you need. And a lot of times the answers that you get will kind of lead you in different directions that you weren't expecting, but they can still be great for your project. Like for example, with my interview with Stephen Mitchell of Harvard University, he talked about the cave paintings in the French Alps, and that kind of led me in a different direction that I wasn't expecting, but actually fit really well in my project. And when you're setting up your body paragraphs, you're going to want to make sure that you're following the rule of division. So for every 1 you have a 2, for every A you have a B, for every subset 1 you have a subset 2, etc., etc. And then you're just going to set this up, and then you're going to go down to the next transition statement and make sure you're relating it back to what you just talked about and cluing your audience into what you're going to talk about next. So you're just going to follow this formula for all of your body paragraphs, making sure to follow the rule of division, making sure to have easy transition statements, and you might have to think about those a little bit. It can be kind of hard to relate back to what you've talked about while also relating to what you're going to talk about, but just put some thought into it. It's not super hard. You're just going to kind of follow that formula until you get to the conclusion, and then you're going to give the audience what's called a break light. And this kind of concludes things, kind of lets your audience know that you're at a stopping point, you're stopping, giving them information, and you're about to summarize what you just said. And then after that, you're going to summarize what you just said. So you're going to say, you're going to kind of retell what you just told them in different words. So for me, I said, in this speech, we discussed and proved how old mythology is, why different cultures tell the same stories, and how mythology influences modern storytelling. So you're going to want to bring up what you already said and kind of refresh them so that they're thinking about it after your speech is over. And then you're going to want to leave them with a clincher statement. And this is kind of the same thing as the hook. It can be a quote, it can be a rhetorical question, just something to leave them thinking after your speech is over. And if you just follow those steps, then that is a great way to set up your outline. And next is the Works Cited page. And for the Works Cited, I cannot recommend enough Purdue OWL. And you're just going to get a lot of great stuff out of that. And just the main points that you need to watch out for on Works Cited page is to make sure that the author of your sources, make sure that those are in alphabetical order, and make sure you do a hanging indent so that the second lines on are indented and the first line is not. And again, Purdue OWL is just going to be a great source for that. So a couple closing thoughts to keep in mind is that you want to have 4 different types of sources. You want to have things like videos, books, scholarly journals, interviews, surveys, anything like that. Make sure it's really great to think outside of the box on your sources. And for me, I interviewed the chairman of mythology and folklore at Harvard University, and I've done this a couple times since I did this project, and I found that a lot of people are just really eager to talk about their subject field, and so really just email these people and I'm sure that they would be more than happy to get back to you and talk about things that they love. And just also make sure you just use your resources that your professor gives you. Make sure you use things like examples of outlines. Make sure you use the skeleton outline, which is really great. That's what I started with. But just make sure you fill in the generic slots with things that you're actually going to be talking about. So don't leave it as main point 1 in the skeleton outline. Make sure you actually write what your main point is and things like that. And just make sure you really utilize all of your resources, including the librarians. They love doing stuff like this. They wouldn't have this job if they didn't love doing stuff like this, so they're just more than happy to help you with everything like this. So hopefully this has helped you a little bit with understanding the outline and everything that you need to do. Just make sure you start early, because this is a big project and it's very stressful when you procrastinate. And so just be on top of it, and just good luck with your project. Hopefully this helped you, and thank you for listening.